we didn't have one in the fall, but we will have one this fall coming up. And I would like to invite Lisa, who just walked up.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay, sweet. Oh, wait.
We pray that you would touch their hearts, instilling in them a deep sense of integrity, humility, and a genuine desire to serve the people selflessly. May they seek your guidance above all else. Thank you, Lord, for this food. Bless it to our nourishment of our bodies and our bodies to your service. Amen. Amen.
Start with our agenda. And as I said, feel free to get up and get breakfast if you didn't get any. At the last minute, Glenn Thompson was unable to come today. He had to stay in Washington for voting purposes. So we only have Zach Warmer here today. If we're going to give the candidates 5 minutes. Lisa's your timer. And at 4 minutes, she's going to give you a minute single, and if you could just wrap things up, that would be great. So, Zach, if you would like to take the podium.
Can you hear me? Yes. So, I'm sure many of you are wondering why 300-pound hillbilly is standing in front of you today. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and tell you why I'm here and why I want to serve you. So I grew up in Center County. I know we're not that close to Center County today, but I'm sure you guys are aware of it. I am a Democrat. Hopefully that doesn't give you too many boos here. But when I grew up in Center County, I grew up in poverty. I grew up in a home with standing water in the basement. I grew up in a home with mold covering the walls. I grew up in a home that was abusive, and I grew up believing that nothing would come of my life. By the time I was 10 years old, I believed that I would be a construction worker just like my father. I believed I would live my entire life in poverty, and I gave up. The only reason I'm standing here today is because I am 300 pounds, and my football coaches saw something in me. They saw a child that was struggling, and they gave me a lift up. Now, as I stand in front of you today, I'm no longer in any of those circumstances. I graduated from one of the most prestigious universities in the country. I'm a full ride at Penn State Law School, and I realized that my direction in life is no longer one subjugated, but one of service. When I think about my life, I think about Romans 15, that those who are strong have an obligation to bear the worries of those who are weak. And right now, the 15th Congressional District is weak. In this district, many people live in poverty, many people are jobless, many people have very little. I would like to change that. I'm not incredibly partisan. I'm not incredibly passionate about one particular political party. I'm passionate about service. I'm passionate about improving the economy of Central Pennsylvania. I'm passionate about winning back our prosperity that was taken from us during the 1990s during NAFTA. As soon as NAFTA was passed and as soon as China was added to WTO, as soon as those trade deals were passed, we saw thousands of manufacturing jobs leave our communities. That's felt troubling. I'm sure many of you felt this. We're now in a situation where most of our economies are struggling, just holding on to service-related businesses with very little base to fund our communities. In my area of the district, we've lost many hospitals, we've lost many essential services, and we're living in a way that really most folks don't deserve. As your congressman, I will spend every day of my life trying to bring dollars back to the district, trying to fight for Central Pennsylvania, and not stirring things up that's not going to result in anything for anyone. My life is about service, and as a Methodist, I will serve you in the best way the Lord, and I love serving people. Thank you so much.
We do have a representative from GT's office, if you would like to come up and say something.
Joyce?
Just let me pull it up first. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I just thought I was doing this at the very end. I'm Joyce Collins. I'm from State College, Center County, as some has said, also within the 15th district. And let me first say that I have known GT since he was in high school. I was a teacher of his at that point, and of his wife at Baltimore Area High School. So I know him to be honorable, honest, and someone you would be very, very proud always to have. Okay. And last night, I was given this. All right, can't do it, I can't work this little machine. Let's see if I want to write an email, and I want to get out of it. Sorry. Okay, this is what GT has to say this morning, and let me first say that GT is well. I'll go into that a little bit more at the end of this, and that he is in DC. It's not that he is not well to be here. He has not missed a single thing going through all of his cancer treatments. He has been absolutely marvelous, and his health is doing great. And he's here because they had to be there for votes today and tomorrow, and so we are waiting for all of that to happen. GT says, I am so sorry that I am unable to join you in person. Please allow me to share a few thoughts on some current issues we are facing in Washington. It is clear that Biden has no intention of ending his policy of appeasement toward Communist China, and that is why House Republicans are fighting every day to stop Communist China's aggression to our America First Forward program policy agenda. I have helped lead the effort as chairman of the House Agriculture Committee by convening a hearing specifically looking at threats to American agriculture by the Communist Chinese Party, as they have bought American agricultural acreage and production. This represents a significant threat to American food security. We are advancing legislation that will identify agricultural assets as having national security implications, requiring a review and approval before their sales can occur. And with the national security and privacy, the House continues to work on improving privacy protections of American citizens when it comes to surveillance by American intelligence agencies. The most recent proposal includes an analysis of the abuses of the spying on the Trump campaign and includes 55 reforms for preventing this from occurring, including jail terms for intelligence employees and violate these new provisions. American surveillance of suspected terrorists has successfully prevented terrorist attacks on American soil since 9/11. That said, we must be vigilant to always protect the constitutional rights of American citizens. And with regard to the Farm Bill, I am honored to share that I will be leading the Agricultural Committee markup of the Farm Bill without any doubt before Memorial Day. This Farm Bill has been prepared listening to hard-working families that provide us food, fiber, building materials, and energy sources in the district, in the state, and in the nation. there will be no new spending for this farm bill. To address the priorities and needed improvements, I am working within what is currently in our committee's jurisdiction to deprioritize spending. There is no better return on investment than a dollar spent on America's #1 industry, agriculture. Investments in agriculture will result in jobs, economic activity. Let me then just say the very good, at the very end, he says, in closing, let me say that I know many of you have been praying for my health. Your prayers have worked. I am very pleased to share that I have only one chemotherapy treatment remaining. It has been a long winter. God is good. You have been giving me with your prayers. I have not missed a single vote, still the #1 speaker in the House, and active in our 18 counties. As I like to say, I have a great care team and a great prayer team. Thank you for being part of that, and may God bless you all.
So at this point, we're gonna open up with questions. John, does anybody have questions for Zach? We can't ask of GT anything because he's not here to speak.
If you have some cards on, if you have a question for Zach, I have a couple right here, right now. But I have, put them down, the question, the answers. Okay, come on up.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can take care of this, and if you have questions for the candidates, please write them on your cards, and we'll be around to collect them here before they have their question and answers too.
First question I have for you. Do you see the border as a crisis, and what are you expecting? What do you see it impacting of Pennsylvania?
So, we're in Pennsylvania, we're pretty far from the border. That doesn't mean it's any less of an issue here than it is anywhere else. I think we need to take some affirmative steps that are more than just rhetoric, like hiring more immigration judges, hiring more border agents, preventing people from coming here illegally. No one's in favor of illegal immigration, not even a Democrat like me. So yeah, I think we should take some steps. I think it's a huge issue. I think that having drugs like fentanyl come to our communities after we're given opioids, that can only hurt us. So yeah, I would definitely consider it here.
Second question. Actually, Doug, could you get my pad? How do you feel about the warrants and the FISA, what was voted on this past week? How do you think it's impacting on our country right now? The FISA bill that was just passed on the warrants. Warrantless passage by the FBI and CIA on our citizens.
As a law student, I am not a fan of warrantless searches. I believe that the Constitution is preeminent to all legislation. If we try to take rights away in the name of public safety, that's a great hazard. Felt the same way during COVID. Feel the same about any situation. I'm always going to protect our rights before public safety.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Written down? Excuse me. Okay. Since Citizens United will declare campaign donations of free speech, we have seen an expansion of donations to dark money. These donations are not transparent. The PA House recently passed a resolution out of committee that called for 28 constitutional amendment. The Senate currently is looking at a Senate resolution with Scott Hutchinson's help that would allow each state to determine their own election funding law. Would you support an amendment if PA PA passes it on the legislature. At this time, there's 22 states that have actually helped, and going to help pass it, we need 38. Could Pennsylvania be the 23rd? Dark money for the issue.
There's nothing I'm more supportive of than overturning Citizens United and returning the power back to the people. Regardless of where you stand on the aisle, both parties take corporate money, and that usurps your votes. It usurps your influence, and it means that people, especially, we live in a rural area. We don't have big bucks. We don't have major corporations in our district. So that means places like California and places like New York have far more influence on our political process than, the average farmer in central Pennsylvania. So I would do everything I could to overturn Citizens United and advocate for people being able to drive our politics, not corporate money.
Thank you.
John, I know we're not allowed to ask GT questions, but I'd just like to comment if Joyce can take this back to GT. I mean, farmers are heavily burdened already. So now if we're going to tell them that every time you want to sell your land, you have to go through a process of having the government approve it, I think they need to look at ways where they can identify initially companies and individuals and nationalities that you just won't be allowed to deal with. Could we make it a little bit easier on our farmers instead of harder? If you would take that back, then I would appreciate it.
As always, those phones are for a reason. I think it's 800-225-2121, if I'm trying to remember it offline, but there's ways to get a hold of them. But definitely, we want to engage our citizens in that process. And I would think that being able to talk to him and the staff at some time is very important, along with Brad Moore, who does his district office in Oil City. So,
Thank you.
you may get the chance to have that. Who knows? Any other questions? Yes, sir, you have it written down. We'll go ahead right now since we did give everybody a chance to get the questions. But for the candidates, since we have so many, we're going to have to kind of zero it down. Yes, sir.
My question is, what do you think about reinstating gas and oil to be drilled in the United States again so we can become what we lost, because that was the beginning of all of our losses. I believe that we need to be a strong country in the gas and oil. We'll never not need gas and oil.
That's a very easy answer for me. I'm an economic nationalist. I believe that anything produced in the United States is better for us in the absolute terms. So if we can drill in the United States, I prefer to do that here than to do what Europe does, where they say, oh, we're so green, but then they buy it from Russia. If we're going to do it, we might as well do it in the United States.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Couple more minutes?
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, you have 8:30. I'm sorry. He has to go at 8:30. So, is there a way we can get in touch with you as far as your campaign address?
So yes, my name is Zach, but everyone in Center County calls me Wome, but W-O-M-E, so my website is womeforpa.com, WOMEFORPA.com. You go to my website, you can contact me in a variety of ways. You can send a letter, you can email me, you can call me, whatever. As long as you're reaching out to me for political reasons, go ahead. You're right.
You're not going back to the Olympic trials, are you? Joyce is later. I'm jealous.
All right, thank you to the candidates for the 15th U.S. Congressional District, Zach Homer and Glenn Thompson and his representative. So what we're going to do, 5 minutes, guys. Lisa will have your 1 minute warning, and then I'll get a basket and collect your stuff while they're talking if you have questions. So we're just going to go for the candidate of the 63rd State Representative District. We are just going to go alphabetically instead of pulling things out of the hat. So our first candidate is Josh Ashline.
Please write down your questions if you have with the candidates.
Finally, a podium that doesn't make me look so tiny. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm probably not going to take all the 5 minutes because the politician really hates to hear myself speak. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself, growing up, things I believe in, and what I'd like to get accomplished for the area. So I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, moved around a lot, over 20 times as my family was going to achieve the American dream. My dad pursued his military career. He did 21 years, finished as an Army officer. And then I went to college in Edinburgh, put myself through college by joining the Army and working contracting work in the summer. I've been there for 12 years, U.S. Army Infantry. I've been deployed and activated multiple times, from as far as California to Louisiana to D.C., including being on the Pope security detail when he came to Philadelphia. That was something that was quite fun. Now, when I got back from my last deployment, I realized that I should give back to the country that has done me so well. You know, I've had pretty humble beginnings, from starting working at 15, 16 years old to being able to be in the spotlight here today. So I wanted to give back. I started working with local candidates and officials, some that are even here today. Thank them for coming. To get the right people elected who believe in the right policies, right social issues, and what can do the best for not only here, Western Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania as a whole. I worked with candidates locally and the entire way up to federally. That's when I kind of learned to run my own business, because I was a one-man consulting firm. So I learned a lot about doing taxes and making sure the bills are paid and a lot of finance that way. And then most recently, I worked in the House of Representatives. Spent about half my time in the district I worked in and half the time down in Harrisburg, sitting on a lot of different hearings, learning about the budget, legislation, and really focusing on the legislation that I would be focused on, which would be not creating new laws, but taking some away. I feel like we have too much red tape and regulation. And that's where I'll transition to why we're here today. We're about businesses and industry and jobs. And someone once asked me, well, when you see a business, what do you see? And they let me know, they say, well, I see a guy that's going to dress like this and makes a lot of money. He's kind of all about money. And I said, well, that can be true in some cases. You see some multi-billion-dollar business. But when I look at a businessman or businesswoman, I see someone who's willing to risk it all to be their own boss. I see the soccer cleats, bought for a young kid trying to go play sports. I see the employees who now have health insurance and can put their kids through college. That's how I see, business and industry, and especially local business. And that's my number one thing that I want to get accomplished. I want to bring jobs back to the area, good family-sustaining jobs. I want to be in Harrisburg, cutting regulation, cutting red tape, lowering taxes, because that just benefits all of us, regardless of party or affiliation or beliefs. Everyone wants a job and be able to take care of their family and live and grow up here and continue how we kind of used to. Talking with my father, he was like, I remember living here and saying, my grandpa worked here for 30 years, and then, this person worked here for 20 years and continued that over generational time. We went to the same church, same community banquets, things like that. But now, even half of my friends end up living in Tennessee, Georgia, and we really lose out to Ohio a lot here too. Not that there's anything wrong with Ohio, but I want people to work here. And I want to work on not only making here a better playing field for businesses, but Pennsylvania as a whole. One of my endorsements is by NFIB, the National Federation of Independent Businesses. I've worked with them in the past, and they've seen my willingness and the things that I want to get accomplished, and I have their full endorsement. So I won't take my full time. I thank everyone for being here. I'm going to stay even after the Q&A. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Josh. Our next candidate is Clay Kennemoot.
I can't operate a chair this morning. Good morning. I want to thank everybody for coming out today. I'm really thrilled to see so many people engaged in politics. We've talked a lot about policy during our different debates and forums, and it was brought up that a lot of us see ourselves, or a lot of people see us as having the same view on policies. I mean, we're all Republicans. We all believe in cutting regulation and red tape. What I want to talk today is about vision. Because the biggest question I get out in the campaign trail by people who are 45 or 50 and older is, why would you want to get into politics? The government's failed. It's over. It's done. It's not for you. It's not for me. It's for the people there. And I tell them at 30 years old, I can't live with that statement. I have to get involved because there's a generation ahead of me that I need to take care of. There's a generation below me that I need to bring up. And so when I tell people, I said, I have to stay optimistic about government. I have to get involved because I feel that we're being left behind. And saying we're being left behind and just resigning yourself to that doesn't work. The majority of people in this room are business owners or managers or work for a living. And you know that you can't give up. You have to make your paycheck. I have to make my paycheck. I took vacation this week to meet the voters, but I get it. I've worked 2 jobs my whole life. My parents ran a small business out of our house, and you have to have vision. You have to have hope. You have to have optimism, because this pessimistic way that we live in society today of government's not for me, politicians are out for themselves. That's why I'm here, because I want to be for you and for you alone. I have one endorsement by the Pennsylvania Staff Nurses and Allied Health Professionals because I stand for patient safety, worker rights, and they agree with a lot of the same things I agree with, so they graciously endorsed me, even though we sit very opposite on a lot of other issues. Because what matters to them matters to me. But the real endorsement that I want, the only people that I care to work for, is the voters of Clarion County and Northern Armstrong County in the 63rd District. I want to be a voice for you in Harrisburg. I want to be somebody that you can say, that's my representative. I can trust that guy. He's going to work for me. He comes to my house. He comes to my gun raffle. He comes to my dinner. Whatever it is, I can call him and he'll help me, or somebody will help me. He'll get me in touch with the right people. Because that's the experience I've had with my representative's office, and that's the experience I want to continue, because it matters who sits in that seat. It doesn't matter that it's just a Republican. It doesn't matter that it's just a Democrat. It matters about it matters about the person, and who you send matters. So when you cast your vote on Tuesday, think to yourself, who can I trust? Who do I like? And who represents me and will fight for me? Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you, Clay. Next, we have Carly.
So you have to put that down.
I want to thank Tracy and the staff of the Chamber for hosting us this morning. For those that don't know me, I have lived and worked in the district my entire life. I grew up in the northern part of Armstrong County. My dad was a coal miner, and I'm proud to say I do have the United Mine Workers endorsement, because meeting with them, they also know that I'm very passionate about our coal industry, our gas and oil. As mentioned and asked earlier about Rusty, we have such great resources here in Pennsylvania that we should be utilizing and being able to be independent ourselves, as well as across the United States. My late husband and I, we have 2 children. They are 25 and 23. They're young entrepreneurs. Goes back to business. My late husband, he had a tire business that was in operation for over 40 years. I am passionate about small business. Small business is our backbone of our communities, and here in Pennsylvania and across the U.S. We're a rural area, not just here in the 63rd, but in all of Pennsylvania. So we need to make sure that our small businesses are thriving, and we continue to bring in manufacturing manufacturing and other businesses. I currently reside in New Bethlehem. I moved back there about 9 years ago. I'm on Borough Council and serve on the Water Authority. One of the things why I want to run for the office is I'm qualified for my experiences with life. I've been through a lot of different things I'll touch base on later. Working in the district with our representative and my time serving on various organizations within Borough Council, as well as the Water Authority and our police association and the regional department. I'm a real strong conservative. I have some of the highest ratings from the NRA, Gun Owners of America, and pro-life. Another area that I'm passionate about within Pennsylvania and across our country is mental health. I lost my husband 16 years ago to suicide, and I'd like to be able to help advance policies that serve our constituents and that are affected by mental health. Unfortunately, often when these constituents come to a facility, they're in crisis. They're often turned away. There's so much criteria that has to be met for them to be admitted or kept at a facility. That's not serving our people, and that is a very strong area that I'd like to be able to work with. Another area is aging and older citizens. We live in a district where older population, they mentioned not just taking care of our current generation, those behind us, but our older ones. They definitely deserve to have that. And then local government. Local government's tricky because, we're a commonwealth, we work from the bottom up, and often our constituents don't understand that their township and borough, they run their own offices. From a state level, I'd like to be able to help work on those regulations to alleviate those that are imposed with them and be able to just prosper here in the 63rd and our surrounding district. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And we have Darlene Snail. Good morning. I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this event and everybody here for attending. I was born in 1963, the second of 6 children. My father was a carpenter and my mother a factory worker. Money was tight. I did well in school, graduating at the top 10% of my class. A member of the National Honor Society for all 4 years. Shortly after high school, I joined the Marine Corps. Throughout my time in the Marine Corps, I was quickly and consistently put in leadership positions. I served a total of 6 years in the Marines and to this day remain a proud Marine Corps veteran. I was a Pennsylvania State Trooper for 9 years, graduating from the academy in the top 5% of my class. After starting a family, I decided to become a full-time stay-at-home mother, homeschooling my children for 2 years. I have been married for 31 years, and my children are now adults with families of their own. I have since taken on many volunteer positions. I have been a certified Penn State Master Gardener, and I belong to the Armstrong County Farm Bureau. I am the commander of the Worthington American Legion, a position I have held for 4 years so far. I have also been District 27 Treasurer, which encompasses 9 counties in western Pennsylvania. In 2022, I was elected to the PAGOP State Committee in a landslide, beating an 8-year incumbent. I currently serve as the chair of the Armstrong County Republican Committee, although I have stepped back from an active role due to my running for office. With the onset of COVID, my focus was turned to state government. What it comes down to is this: our government is too big, our government is too intrusive, and our government is too expensive. Pennsylvania is the 4th largest and most expensive legislature in the country. Our region's economic growth can prosper from that which surrounds us. We must work to find new ideas and business opportunities, using an open dialogue with our colleagues.
63rd District is abundant in natural resources. We have large reserves of coal, oil, and natural gas beneath our feet. By exploring and working these industries, other businesses can flourish. Workers need accommodations and food. Machinery needs purchased and maintained. Tax bases expand. But Pennsylvania, as a whole, suffers from overregulations that stifle these industries. Another part of our natural resources is our beautiful scenery and landscape, which attracts many visitors to our area. We can work with the Army Corps of Engineers to get more river access through better lock and dam management. Our trails continue to be expanded and connected with other, longer trails. The trail from Erie to Pittsburgh runs right through the 63rd District. Historical tourism and reenactment areas can be expanded. Fort Ligonier is a huge historical draw with thousands of visitors each day. Fort Ligonier has a fort, but it never had a battle. Katanning, on the other hand, did have a battle. The Battle of Katanning in the French and Indian War. Increased visitor traffic will also encourage the growth of supporting businesses. The increase of these businesses will also serve those living in our communities. The expansion of broadband can better support advertising and marketing of businesses, social activities, and tourism. Work-from-home families will then be able to enjoy all that District 63 has to offer without the rat race of the city. Another issue that needs addressed is workforce development. Our biggest export is our young people. We can coordinate business needs with what our technical schools teach, adjusting them as needed. We can work to teach new, marketable skills to displaced workers. Throughout all of this, I will remember what the proper role of government is. Government is to aid the people, not overburden them. The bureaucratic bloat in Harrisburg burdens our population with unnecessary taxes and regulations. This has led to a marked population decrease due to immigration to more business and tax-friendly states. These are only a few of the opportunities that can be developed throughout the 63rd District. I will not be a lone voice in Harrisburg. I have been endorsed by the Pennsylvania Freedom Caucus, which holds similar views regarding government that I do. Semper Fi, and God bless.
Thank you, Darlene. Do we have any other questions we haven't collected yet?
Anybody else? We'll try to get them all in.
And you might want to put your question in. Put it in. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to have y'all come up. We're going to, John will pull questions out, and it was addressed particular, or all of you, however that works, but you have a minute to be concise in your answers, would be great, so we can get as many questions in as we can. So you all come up, I'm going to let John run.
We'll try to go down. You know the orders. Oh, yeah. And I want to let you know, there's some questions might be redundant. The back there were questions from the meeting on Good Friday, the debate on the forum on Good Friday. So we definitely want to not be redundant with our questions if we don't have to. There are quite a few questions in here, so we'll be trying to get it as well as we can. So the first question for the candidates. What is your, I did come up with this question, and this was pulled randomly. What is your opinion on the tolling of I-80 and what for what reason? I did not. Go ahead, Lisa. Wait, we start that one.
Can everyone hear me? I am not in favor of tolling on I-80. We have it's a tremendous corridor for business, and we need to have that happening. We do, as much as people think there's not industry in our district, we have a ton of industry, and they utilize our interstate to move their product and to get their product into their facility for production. If we toll 80,
we're gonna start losing those businesses. They're gonna find places where they can go, where they're not having those extreme costs of going over. I don't know what they're looking at, but when you think of the New York City, George Washington Bridge, when we had our tire business, it could cost us a couple $100s just to try to get our product into the city. We can't have that, so I'm totally against I-80.
I'm gonna step to the podium. I'm guessing the sound's being run through the podium, so yeah, I'll be kind to the poor gentleman running the camera. I probably hold a dissenting view here. You know, when you talk about the Golden Gate Bridge, it's completely self-funded by tolling. And while I think that taxes attack residents, I think interstate tolls help us by passerbys. There's more than enough ways. Everybody complains about the local of it. You know, I can't drive from the 64 to the 62 without getting a toll now. Well, yeah, you can go through Clarion or out Brook Road, you know, just like we all do when there's construction, because that never happens around here. But I think that when you look at tractor-trailer traffic, when you look at interstate commerce, when you look at the funding that our local services need, that our locale needs, both north and south in our district, I think that while it could be burdensome to some degree, tolling is an interesting opportunity to take a look and see what kind of revenue versus what kind of cost to locals that we would experience. So while I'm not gung-ho about it, I would consider it and think it's not a terrible idea. Thank you.
So I am against tolling I-80. I was knocking doors the other day and there was an accident on I-80 and it took me 40 minutes to drive 10 minutes because of all the tractor trailers blocking, you know, the stoplights and coming through there. Not only does it do that, but it also hurts the local businesses, and people say, oh, well, why would I want to, again, move there? You know, it creates a non-level playing field. We see, if you've ever been on the turnpike, how those continually increase, because once a fee's there, you know, a lot of times people never say, oh, well, let's give the citizens a break. Say, we need more money for more programs and more things. And then where does that money go? You know, if I-80 were to be told, would that come here to the 63rd, or would it be sent down to Harrisburg and we'd have to fight to even get a fraction of that back? So I'm 100% against tolling I-80. Thank you.
I am also against tolling I-80. I am against new taxes, and even though that's a toll, that is a new tax, that it can be viewed as a new tax. And I've said this before, we do not need to be sending more money to Harrisburg. We need to have Harrisburg manage the money that they have better than what they are. And looking at what happened with the turnpike, with my history as a state trooper, the turnpike has less traffic and I-80 has more traffic because of the tolls. So I am not in favor of tolls on I-80. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll start with Clay on this one. Out of all the candidates, have all the candidates filled out their financial report and explain why if you have?
So I'm probably the only one you can't see online because this is my first time running for office and my mom's my treasurer, and so we got a little bit of paperwork snafu. It's on the way, it'll be posted in a couple days. So yes, I filled it out. I apologize, I did not keep a copy, or I'd show it to you right now, but I can tell you where every dollar came from and where every dollar went from my committee and myself. Thanks.
Yes, mine is filed with the Department of State. Unless there's a technical error, you can find it there. But I also provided a courtesy copy to our courthouse and our annex office there. Anyone there is free to go down and get a copy of it. And it's good to go. Everything's accounted for, and I'd be glad to answer about any specific donors or any money that I put in or spent in any way. Thank you.
As of 2 days ago, the computer says that I did not submit mine. However, I did submit it, and I did submit it on time. I had email verification, and 2 days ago, I looked. When it wasn't on there, then I sent an email to Harrisburg, and I have yet to hear back. So I did submit it, and I did submit it on time, but it is not on the website.
I also have mine submitted. I'll be honest, I've not checked the website, but for mine or any of the candidates, but it should be there. I have the confirmation as well that it was submitted. And if anyone has any questions, just please reach out to me.
Josh, this time. How do you plan to support economic development agencies and initiatives in Clarion and Armstrong County?
I think it's a local up approach. We need to inform people that you don't just have to go to college, or, you know, start asking kids not where you're going to go or where you're going to move to, but what do you want to do? We need to increase the opportunities they have by starting at a younger age. Something I did in the house this last year was we had virtual reality goggles. We brought them into classrooms with a workforce development company so that kids could see the different factories and different job opportunities. You know, I asked my niece, you know, name a bunch of jobs, and she can name like doctor, lawyer, police officer. You know, I never heard her say, you know, accountant or welder, or, you know, it's something in forestry. And so I think that's the number one thing. We need to start there. I also think that working with our universities, we can craft different degrees, and this is something I've had a hand in as well, to go to local businesses and the industries and say, you know, what do you need in the next few years? And then work with them to craft degrees so that kids that come up can have those degrees and immediately start working here where they live, and then don't have to move away. Thank you.
Well, I covered a lot of this in my opening statement, but to give a little bit more detail, I think what we need to do is focus more on our technical schools. Each county has one, and I know in Armstrong County, we have a waiting list this year, so that there are more students wanting to go to the technical schools than we have positions open. So what this will enable us to do is keep more of our students debt-free, because when they go to a technical school, most of them are employed right out of school, and our technical jobs pay very good money. They have been neglected by people going to thinking that they have to go to a four-year college to make a decent wage. So that's one thing that I would definitely look into, because we need to tailor what we're offering at the technical schools to the businesses in our area, and then if we have businesses, time?
What's that? Should I jump line? Put me up against the wall. I'm sorry.
So for economic development, we have some great resources here, actually just here in Clarion as well, from the SBDC and then Clarion County Economic Development. A lot of our residents do not realize the work that they do at the economic development, and they are in the process right now of really going into the communities. They've got a great new director, she's with us, Jared's here with us, and they are working within our small communities, and what we can do is continue to work with them to strengthen and work together. That the more that we're able to work together, each of our communities, there's a lot to be said with that. Yes, we all want a new business in Clarion or a new Bethlehem in Sligo, but at the end of the day, where is that business going to be most effective? We'd like to just talk about larger things, and let's work together to bring them here.
So I don't think you talk about economic development without talking about workforce development. There's not a company that I know of today that doesn't have a wanted sign posted, not in the window anymore, but on the internet. You know, and we have people in this area who don't work. And it's not because they're retired or because they don't want to. And that's a real problem, excuse me, with people my generation and below that I've come to find. And so when we talk about economic development, we also need to talk about workforce development. We need to talk about if you can work, you should be working. There's jobs available they need filled because there's not enough people at any job anyway. If you walk into anywhere, they say, oh my gosh, we're understaffed, please bear with us. And you know, if you're waiting for a hamburger at McDonald's, that's okay. If you're waiting for an ambulance to come because you just collapsed, that's not very good. So we need to work with our local businesses. We need to provide resources to allow local businesses to grow and expand, new businesses to flourish. We also need to develop our workforce so that they come to work for these businesses. Thank you.
We'll start with you first. Low housing inventory and lack of affordable housing have been major issues across PA. With many markets experiencing a historic lack of available housing or higher pricing, it is making it difficult or near impossible for many buyers to become homeowners, especially our young. What are your thoughts to address these issues to help make home ownership more attainable?
That's a good question. I can't say it's one that I have considered very much before. I do know the interest rates have gotten a lot larger, which makes the mortgages a lot bigger, but I do not know how to fix it. I know it's something also that needs to be done on a federal level because the interest rates are set at a federal level. But as far as the rest goes, I am not aware of how to work with that. But I would most definitely find out.
For housing, right now when you're buying, selling, the interest rate does have a large impact on that. However, it still comes back to supply and demand. And as I stated earlier, we're a very older community, and a lot of us in this room have lived here our whole life, and we don't leave. So when a house becomes available, it comes down to supply and demand, unfortunately. And our farmers are keeping their land, they're not building, they're not developing. It's one of the areas that why we love our 63rd district is that we like our space. I know it's a problem. There are resources out there. If you work through, housing has some different programs that will help homeowners, new homeowners, first-time buyers. They help guide them. So there's resources and agencies out there to help, and hopefully, I love that people want to be here. Finding where to put a facility or development, once again, comes back to people don't want to sell their land here. They want to keep it, so.
So this comes back to a lot of what I talked about when it comes to, vision and optimism. At 30 years old, I'm probably going to buy a few more houses in my lifetime, or move one or two more times. It's hard to tell. Maybe not. I live 30 years in Shenandoah. That might not ever change. But the big obstruction, and landlords in this room can agree, that the housing and urban development changes that have caused rent prices in this area to skyrocket is 100% related to government, and it's both federal and state. It's not something that we can just go to Harrisburg and tackle. It's a federal problem too. But it runs the values of houses way above normal. So we can talk about interest rates, we can talk about all of that, but the problem is that it's more valuable to hold on to a house that is not worth a lot of money because you can get a lot of money every month with low housing from the government, and that check's going to clear every time. You don't have to deal with a tenant, maybe not making a payment a month or anything like that. So I think that we need to reform housing and urban development so that housing is more affordable in general. Thanks.
I think the answer to the question is a policy issue. I mean, you look at inflation and grocery store gas prices and everything that comes with it over the last few years, it's not a surprise the housing market does the same thing. And it does come down to, who wants a house? Like if I have a job in the area, like I mentioned in my opening, about people moving away, a lot of my friends, especially ones that have gone to Clarion, end up moving away, but there's no need to build affordable housing. But if we focus on the workforce and industry development, and people come here and stay here and invest their money here, they're increasing our tax base here, then there will be a need for contract companies like the one that I used to work for to build houses for people that need them. So I really think it's a rising tide lifts all ships. You bring in good family-sustaining jobs, people want to live here and build here and stay here, then that's how the prices will go down. And that can be accounted from here, all across the state and all across the country, I believe. Thank you.
John, this is prior our last question.
Last question, okay. All right. What is your opinion on the reinstatement of the gas and oil drilling tax?
Reinstating the gas and oil.
No, who's up? Did you go first last time?
Yeah. What is your feeling about the reinstatement of gas and oil drilling tax?
I'm not in favor of the gas and oil tax. We want to be drilling here in Pennsylvania, here in the 63rd. We have a lot of wells that have been closed, and we need to get those reopened and be doing our oil and gas business here.
I oppose the extraction tax, and furthermore know that we could go over to the empty hillside over there and drill 25 wells today, and 24 of them are going to produce more natural gas than one well did 30 years ago. The problem is infrastructure and it's pipelines. Pennsylvania is one of the hardest states to move gas out of. I worked in the oil field, and I can tell you that pipelining is a nightmare of regulation, it's a nightmare of permitting, it's a nightmare in general, and that's where we need improvement. Infrastructure improvements to move natural gas so that we can get back to poking holes in the ground, because until we move it, we can't take any more. So, thanks.
I'll give the same answer I gave when I was a guest speaker at the Pennsylvania Independent Petroleum Producers Dinner. Why would we want to tax you more and put more fees and regulations on you when you're already being hounded by DEP and everyone on the news media and social media saying, oh, you guys are evil, we need to shut you down, try to ban your gas stoves and everything like that. So I'm especially when you have an uncontrolled fee or tax where, they say it might go to this and you don't know where it's going. We need to unleash our energy sector, especially in Pennsylvania. You look how, we have more energy and natural gas in Pennsylvania than most countries do, just here. And that could really be a boost across the entire state. We could be one of the richest states, even compared to countries in the world. So I'm against adding more taxes and fees. We need to cut the regulations, cut the red tape, let them open up, and the old saying, drill, baby, drill. It's pretty abundant here. Thank you.
I have a family member that worked on the gas line, and he was a construction worker, heavy equipment. But from what he told me, there is so much support that is needed in an area whenever they're building the pipelines, whenever they're drilling, that it makes the whole business area boom. The hotels, the rental spaces, the food, all of that. So we should be encouraging more drilling, not discouraging it. And that's what a new tax would do. It would put more hardship on people that are willing to do this. The other thing is, in 2019, Pennsylvania was the largest electricity exporter in the country. And to do this, we need to continue and ramp up our oil and gas production.
Well, thank you all. I tell you what, one thing, if you have, there's a lot of other questions here, so I'll let every candidate give their little plug as far as their websites where you can go and address any other questions you have for them. But also, remember in the back, there's questions from the last forum that they had. So you have plenty of ways to get the information. And that's the biggest reason why we wanted to do this, to educate people. That's the thing I don't know who I'm voting for, because I don't know their opinions. Well, this is what we're giving. This is why we're doing this every year, or at least once a year, if not twice a year. So if you want to go ahead and give your addresses, why don't we start with Darlene, since you're right here.
My email address is D, like my first name, Darlene, and then my last name, SMAIL, 2244@windstream.net. And then my phone number is my personal number. I answer it all the time, except after 10 and before 6. 724-902-2244. And then I can also be reached on Facebook at Darlene Smale for PA House. I welcome any questions, conversations. Conversation is good. I welcome it. Thank you.
Thank you all. Give you all my contact information. Anybody whose question wasn't answered today, please reach out. I'd love to be able to answer it. You can contact me by phone at 814-229-6050, and I have some palm cards that will be with me to hand out if you'd like those. You can reach me at Josh Bashline for exploreClarion.com, and Facebook the same, or you can type in Bashline for PA. Once again, I'd like to thank everyone, and I look forward to you reaching out so I can answer all of your questions. Thank you.
So my Facebook handle or title, whatever they call it, is Blake Kennedy for State Representative. I have business cards in my pocket if anybody wants my cell phone number. I am not as good at answering on the first time, but I always call back. So anybody who wants that is 814-229-2259. You shout, or I'll give you a business card when we're done. Thanks.
Lisa Carly for State Representative, as well as you can go to exploreClarion.com. My cell phone's 814-319-3013. Likewise, I'm horrible at answering usually the first time, but if you leave a message, I'll certainly get back to you. Thank you.
In fact, one thing we did, again, this is about education. What we're doing for the chamber, for our community, I have in here sample ballots. They're sample. Nobody said it. Not early and often here, guys. But it just gives you a chance, as we talked about it before, it gives you a chance to look at, and if somebody does, well, I don't know what I'm doing when I go in there. Here it is, gives them a chance to do that. But you can also go on Clarion County's elections site, Clarion County, and find the same information on that site too. But we have a sample ballot, and we want to thank you. One last thing on education. One of the candidates, one of the things we're also voting for is delegates for the party. Whether you're Republican, you have Republican voters in there. There's the list of delegates here, and also the Democrats. But I wanted to give a little more information. Actually, we have two candidates here today for delegates. We have both Joyce Haas, I'll introduce, and then Darlene, you're all running too. So we have two here, but I wanted to bring Joyce up because she has been a candidate before. But Joyce Haas is from Center County. She said she worked for the GT's committee. I got to know Joyce over the years from 2008 when I ran against GT. Had a very interesting time, and we've known each other for quite a few years now. So please welcome Joyce Haas. She can introduce us. Thank you.
Actually, I'm not here to talk about myself, but rather John had asked me if I could come and tell a little bit about what a delegate even is or does. Very few people who are out there to vote for delegate even know, number one, that they're on the ballot, and what am I voting for? The convention, well, let's start off with how many Pennsylvania has. Pennsylvania actually has 51 that are elected through the congressional districts that you elect 3. And every congressional district gets 3. Some congressional districts that are large voting Republican sometimes get an extra one. So that sometimes few of the counties get 4. So there's actually a total of 16 of these extra statewide. And one of those would include, for instance, the head of the GOP here in Pennsylvania, Lawrence Davis, like he would be one without being out there on the ballot. There are a couple of those. So it turns out there are truly 67 that will be. And when you vote for those delegates, they don't have a name after it saying, I'm voting for Nikki, I'm voting for Donald. It doesn't do that. In Pennsylvania, for the Republicans, Democrats do. Republicans do not. Because what happens in Pennsylvania with the Republicans is whoever wins Pennsylvania on the general in November gets all, actually in the primary, the winner in the primary gets all of our delegates. We are committed to that candidate. You can't say one is for here, one is for there. And that happens when you go to the convention. That's one of the things that a delegate does, is on the floor, when the vote is taken, they're voting, each state will say, I place all 67 of my votes in Pennsylvania for Donald J. Trump. That's one of the things that happens. Now, I've been to 7 different conventions, and in the last one in 2016 was really the most contentious, because there were people who did not want to have their votes going to Donald Trump. So it took a long time for us to get things worked out before that happened to be able to do that nomination. The other thing that a delegate does is they vote for yes or no on accepting the platform of the Republican Party. And that platform is written the week before the convention. So whoever is serving on that committee, and there will be one male and one female from each state who's out there helping to write that platform. And the same goes for the rules of the Republican Party and for the credentials, to be checking the credentials of everyone who is there to be at a delegate and what happens. So those are 3 other votes that a delegate does take. And I have served during my time on the platform committee, on the rules committee, and on the credentials committee, so that what happens is it's all put together the week before the convention. But anyway, if you have any questions about what a delegate really does, I'll take a question. Okay, anyway, I appreciate this opportunity, and I'm out there on your sample ballot.
Did you want to add anything?
I would like to speak since I'm a candidate for delegate.
Yeah, we worked more about, but go ahead.
And I do have a question for you, Joyce. It's just, I wanted it to be heard. Did they change the rules for running for delegate in the past, say, 3 or 4 months?
No.
Okay, because it's my understanding that the candidates for delegate that are elected in the congressional district are unbound and can vote for whomever they want.
Now, I say I've been a delegate in 7 different, every 4 years.
Yeah.
And no, it's been exactly that way always.
Okay, because it's the 16 delegates that are appointed by the GOP that are bound. The ones that are elected are unbound.
No, we are bound for the person who is elected within our state for the first vote. If it becomes contentious during the second vote that would come out there, then we become unbound. But for that first vote, we are bound.
Because we have a loophole. is what it's termed. Okay, but anyway, so I had intended on running for delegate last summer. And one of the reasons I started running for delegate was because I wanted to vote for President Trump regardless of how things worked out. There are a number of us throughout the state that have committed to voting for President Trump. Here in the 63rd District, there are 3 of us. Myself, Danny Kunselman, he's from Jefferson County, and Ken Lang from Center County. We are all America First, and we have committed to vote for President Trump and are supporting each other, and would appreciate your vote for delegate. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you all for coming. I would like to thank all of our candidates, especially for the question sessions where you were limited to a minute. Thank you so much for being respectful of our time frame. I would like to thank our commissioners for coming. I know there's a room here, and we have State Representative John Overlander and Senator Hutchinson. Thank you all for coming. Thank everybody for coming, and also like to thank my committee, Jamie Fever, Lisa Steiner, John Strout, and Tracy for doing a lot of the work, and Zach for breakfast. And we're going to conclude our day with that. Thank you. Thank you.